Welcome to the Cycle Starters podcast. I'm your host, Heather Rebecca Wilson, and today I am so thrilled to be joined by powerhouse Lyn Pacificar, a first-generation Filipina-American healer, founder of Herbalaria, and practitioner of Katuuran and Albularyo traditional medicine. Lyn's journey is deeply rooted in her Filipina heritage, where she bridges ancient healing traditions with contemporary wellness practices. Based in East Hollywood, California, she carries forward the wisdom passed down through generations, including teachings from her father, a monkey Hilot, and the profound influences of her grandmother and grandfather. In this episode, we'll explore Lyn's ancestral healing journey, discuss her work with Herbalaria, and learn how she's reclaiming and asserting Philippine healing traditions in modern times. We'll dive into the cycles she's starting in her lineage and the powerful ways she's helping others connect to their own ancestral wisdom. Get ready for an illuminating conversation about cultural preservation, spiritual inheritance, and welcome, Lyn. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Heather. It's been so long. It's a long time coming, is what I mean. Like for me to even be a part of your sphere in this capacity of being on your podcast. So thank you. I'm so honored for you asking me.
Oh my gosh, sis, I'm so honored that you are here. And how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. I've been just busy and also supporting my mom in her healing journey since you brought up being a healer. It's also being present for your own family members. And my mom right now is going through cancer. She just had a mastectomy this past March, and they still found some cancer in her lymph nodes. So we're not completely out of the woods yet, but I am there for her.
I'm sending your mom a huge hug. I'm hugging you, your whole family. And like I said, I'm holding the vision of her divine perfect health and just sending you so much love.
Thank you
And
so much.
of course, and it's so beautiful that you can be there to support your mom along this healing path that she's on. So
Yeah,
it's
thank
awesome.
you.
Of
Appreciate that.
course, of course. So, I think I first have to say before anything else that you have been such an essential part of my ancestral healing journey. I would say that the time when we were working together, you really initiated me onto this path. And I'm so eternally grateful to you for that. And even during the pandemic, when I was caretaking for my dad, when he had all those surgeries, I leaned on you for support to connect to my ancestral wisdom, my ancestral magic to support my dad on his healing path. So I just want to say right off the bat, I appreciate you so much. And thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes, I just seeing your growth is so amazing. I am really proud of you on so many levels. Even you getting married was that was like, woo, I was excited for you. Just seeing from the very beginnings of finding yourself, and of course caretaking for your father, your family, your ancestral lineage. You're holding so much in terms of healing both sides, your mom and dad's, right? Yeah, there's a lot to unpack even from there, but to see you go from there and utilizing that power to heal others through either through the stars, through doing their readings, to doing this podcast, everything you've done has been phenomenal. And I just love and enjoy watching your growth and unfoldings.
Thank you. I received that. Thank you so much. And it really means a lot coming from you because you're a real one, like we've hung out in person and you're as real as it gets. And you're also so freaking magical too. And so I'm really excited for this conversation. And I want to start with you sharing about your ancestry and your ancestors.
Yeah, so I am Filipino-American, but I have many different lineages that connect me to the motherland, the Philippines. My mom's side is Visayan, and both my mom and dad are Visayan, Eastern and Western. But there's so many little rootlets that go through the archipelago. You can't just say, I am this without acknowledging the other ancestors that were traveling between the islands. So My mom is Hiligaynon from Panay, specifically her parents. And then, but she was born in Mindanao in Cotabato City. So we are like the Southern Belles of the Philippines, if you want to call it that. Like the more traditional, less colonized from the north, because there was like a lot more access around that time during the Manila galleon trade.
Mm-hmm.
And then my dad is Waray, but his father has roots going up to Pampanga.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of things there too, like Ilocano, but I can't relate to it because I wasn't raised that way. So I am pretty much Visayan in upbringing. But though I grew up with my Lola, my grandmother, and my parents in a fully immersed Filipino speaking household, Tagalog specifically, mixed with Visayan and English. So when I was growing up, it was pretty confusing being in an American setting, especially specifically Los Angeles, where it's such a cultural amalgamation of different cultures from Latinos to Filipinos to Koreans, all kinds of people here. And so when you are growing up in a place like this, you also take on that lineage, the lineage of the land that you were born on. So I was born here on Tongva land, learning these cultures and languages.
Thank you for sharing all that. And
Mhm.
I love that we have this what I background in common because my mom is from Leyte, right? And so
Mhm.
I have ancestors on my maternal side from Samar and Panay as well. So I love it. We likely have ancestors in common.
For
So
sure. For sure.
yeah,
That.
I love it. I love it. We're definitely connected.
Mhm.
My gosh. I mean, we could go in so many different directions because you do so many different things, right? Like I said in the introduction, you are the founder of Herbalaria, right? You are an entrepreneur. You are a Katuuran. You're an artist. You're a teacher. You're a mentor. You're a mother, right? You're a
Yeah.
partner. You are a devoted daughter. I mean, you're just so multidimensional. And
Mhm.
I think where I want to start is with the Katuuran piece. So, can you tell me how you got to this place where
Oh.
you are practicing this medicine? And then, of course, I have follow up questions. But yeah.
Yeah, so it didn't begin there. It actually began at a very young age. Well, then obviously it's the journey. Learning first from my dad, who's a manghihilot. In general, a lot of Filipinos know healers as hilots, other
Hmm.
than little subsects and names, for example, Albularyo. But that was really where my healing journey started. A Katuuran is technically a shaman, one who foretells the future, who is prophesying. So my gifts of mediumship, healing, seeing spirits, all that kind of stuff started at a very, very young age. And I'm sure there's a lot of folks out there that can relate to that, but didn't really have that nurtured. But because I lived in a household that again was Visayan, like from Mindanao, those folk traditions were ingrained along with the Catholicism. So it wasn't a weird thing to have a manghihilot in the family. It was very natural. Even being introduced to our herbal medicine, like a salabat, drinking ginger tea, guava leaves, garlic, all the things that naturally heal us was just built into our culture, into my upbringing. It wasn't something like where I go, hey, I want to take herbal classes. I want to learn my language. You know, I was blessed and fortunate enough to have all this wonderful access to resources and knowledge directly from my grandparents and parents. And then later on, as I started progressing in my spiritual journey and learning how to deal with spirits, because a lot of times my dad would bring knowledge and information to me from the Philippines and, of course, directly teach me. He was also a Filipino martial artist, so I learned martial arts at a young age. Other than Filipino, I also learned karate, taekwondo, just the fighting aspect, but it didn't really resonate hard as much as the healing. So moving forward from there, I really needed to hone in on the spirit part.
Yeah.
I got into a lot of religious activities. I was a spiritual leader in our church, a youth group leader. Even in high school, I was the commissioner of religious affairs. So I was on AS. student council every morning. I would open up the day with prayer over the PA. I'd be like, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen, like say the prayers. And then even serving in church. So in every capacity from my youth, I have been serving God, Goddess, Spirit, and it's evolved over time to become this person I am today, where I believe there are bigger things out there. I believe that if we're really truly going to believe in a higher source, then we can't be limited to a narrow view of that, because the realm of spirit really taught me there's no just heaven, hell, and purgatory. There's the existence of different dimensions and realms within this own realm that we are all living in. We coexist with the spirit realm. And then, like, let's say later on in my teens, my cousin called me and he was saying that he had a dream, because we have sensitive people in my family, but this was extraordinary because he's also of mixed lineage of Filipino and white, doesn't understand our language fully, actually doesn't speak it at all, and said to me that an elder came to him in his dream and said, speak to Lyn, she's an Albularyo, about the situation with an aunt who was doing some evil stuff.
Shit.
So the acknowledgement of Albulario didn't come from community. It actually came from dream, through a cousin who doesn't speak our language, who heard from an elder on the other side, that the elders on the other side and the ancestors on the other side call me that. I didn't self-proclaim it.
Mm.
None of my titles are self-proclaimed because they are given to me. You can't do that. It's either community or the elders that acknowledge you, or the ancestors that it has to be like one of those things where the church is verifying if someone is really a saint. Okay, there has to be evidence. There has to be proof of healings, proof of some miraculous stuff that has gone on. And I've done that since I was younger, predicting, healing, seeing things. And so I have a proven track record that my elders can all testify for. But, and so going to becoming a Katuuran, I went through a lot of shamanic processes from my own family, my lineage with my great great grandmother on my dad's side, the Waray side. That's really, when they say Waray people are tough people, they're badass people, they're really magical people too. So Heather, you and I, we got that magical lineage there as
Yes,
well.
ma'am.
We can't
Yes.
deny that side, right? Like, that's why you're so magical. I mean, I'm of course your other side too, but I'm just saying, because we're gonna call in our ancestors on that side and give them honor
Huh?
as well. But my great grandmother was pretty well known as someone who would speak words and it would manifest. So she was a manifester, but they said she had a black cross on her tongue so she can curse you. I mean, these are stories that were told to me from the elders, including my dad and my grandmother. And they're like, yeah, people were afraid of her. And it made me think about that. I'm like, why was that part of our magic expressly dark, And then I had to go travel further in my ancestry and realize that the magic had always been there. It just transpired into something darker because you had to defend from something.
Mm-hmm.
You had to create like defense against the dark arts or defense against the whatever spirits that were there. There's a lot of ancient spirits in the Philippines, so it's a whole other lesson. But to become a katuuran is to have also the lineage of one who is a shaman in your line. I give credit to my dad's side for that, because the one who comes to me, Apong Mansanat, she's the one who is my teacher. And also the other elders in the Philippines that teach me. So I don't really go around saying who my teachers are, or I don't do those Instagrammable look at me. I'm doing herbs and learning from healers and shit like that. But because this work is very sacred, and from what I was taught from my father, is you have to keep it secret. You don't tell incantations publicly, prayers. That's why, like, it's too woo 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 and too fanatical, then it looks fake. And when you were saying you're the real deal, I was like, I appreciate that, because what I do is very real and authentic, and it's with a lot of integrity I do this work. But I do it without shame, and I will speak on it, but I'm not going to go, hey, let me teach you how to become someone like me, because I really believe in their own ability to become who they should be and not to be like me, you know? And that's why the continuation of the Katuoran really was a huge ritual for me to go through. It was like I'll just give a little bit of insight. It was
Yeah, please.
fasting, a lot of fasting, no food for 3 days.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And literally purging, journeying until I passed the test. So it was a lot. It was a lot.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for sharing that story. I learned more about you. Uh, yeah, that's awesome. Well, so my follow-up question to all of this is that I think when I first started doing my ancestral healing work in terms of healing my maternal side, my Visayan side, the first, figure or archetype that came up around our ancestors was the Babaylan. And so I want to hear from you. How would you explain what the difference is between the Katuuran and the Babaylan?
There's a lot of similarities. Babaylan is still a living tradition in the Philippines. I do not play with that title. I don't even do iterations of it anywhere. However, a Katuuran is a Babaylan who is prophetic.
I see.
So in the Philippines, they call me Babaylan, the
Okay.
locals. But I don't really try to do that here in America because I think it gets too sensationalized and people start claiming they are if they do some sort of magical stuff. Look, you have to go through a initiation. And even if it is in your lineage, you still have to go through initiation. To claim it that's a job, that's an embodiment of a type of work and spiritual service to your community. Like I serve my community as a Katuuran, as an Albularyo, but I hope I don't ever intend to sensationalize our practices, but to keep it as sacred as possible. And, I think that with the Babaylan, it's great to relate to what that means. So Babaylan were women. They are powerful priestesses, mostly women. And there were like my friend who's a Panay Bukidnon shaman, his grandfather was also in the capacity of Babaylan. So when they would do rituals, they wear the long hair wigs
Hmm.
and they have to look like women because the spirits don't listen to the men, they listen to the women.
How interesting.
So that's really where the idea of Babaylan being men or effeminate men came from. It's because they had to look like women in order to be heard by the spirits.
This is so interesting. Thank
Mhm,
you. Thank you for
mhm.
sharing that. And I think it's really valuable just hearing from you, having you explain what is a Babaylan, what is a Katuuran, how are they different, how are they similar? Thank you for clarifying that because
Mm,
I know our listeners, are curious and interested, and it's
yeah,
really important. It's really important, especially for those of us, who are from our lineage, right?
yeah, it is absolutely. And let me add one more thing
Yeah, go for it.
because in the capacity of Babaylans, because they're still practitioners, real life practitioners in the Philippines. They do a lot of dancing, chanting. There's like a capacities that they do other than, they channel spirits. So there's other things besides like what I think Philams or people in the diaspora know about them. There's just so many nuances of our practices of shamanism. And then even the word katuuran means truth speaker, katuut, you know? So when I speak truth, I have to, because if I don't, it'll go against me. It'll bounce back, and the katuuran is generally looked upon as more trustworthy.
Mhm.
And this is according to what I've read and heard than a babaylan, because a babaylan can just dance and maybe give you tales of something. This is back then. I'm not talking about now,
Mhm.
that they were not as truthful as a katuuran. That's why the katuuran was called that, the one who told truth and the one who would speak more to what is real and honest with integrity than trying to embellish stories and say you're possessed, there's a demon, you need to cleanse it or something like that and pretend that they were possessed by spirits, because that also happens where people will pretend they're possessed in order to be given gifts or whatever, paid. Just like integrity isn't always there. And that's still even evident today, whether it's centuries ago or modern day Philippines. You got to know who you can trust. And so the Katuuran was trusted.
Thank you for that. This is so fascinating. I'm learning so much listening to you. Well, so, you talked a bit about how you grew up, in a Tagalog speaking household, right? Also a magical household. When did the concept or the idea of ancestral healing even enter your consciousness? Like, were you born
Mm.
that way? Did it happen when you were in elementary school? When did you realize things can be passed down from generation to generation?
Well, because my dad was a Mangi Hilot, I was the family Hilot right after him. So if anybody hears this and if someone goes to you and says, "Hey, can you massage me? Can you take care of me?" and you're the only one everybody asks, you are the designated healer of that family. It's the touch, it's your energy. That was my first training. And so when it entered into my consciousness, was that it wasn't everybody doing it. It was only me. It went from my dad to me. And I started realizing the uniqueness of my existence within my family, at least on my dad's side, that this is something special and not everybody does this, and I didn't go to school for it. I didn't take classes for it. It's something passed down and individualistic to the family style, you know. Like I have my friend Virgil, he has a school, Kailukuan in Walnut. So he teaches his family style of a blonde and people take his classes. So when they are doing that to other people, they're passing down Virgil's lineage, his style. Versus like me, I'm not teaching people Hilot, but I know my style. And then Soraya, my daughter, does her style. And then my son, they're both excellent healers, by the way. So I'm
Nice.
always asking them, I was like, can you heal mommy? And so Soraya is very so kind and gracious. But my son, since he's a teenage boy, he's like, okay, fine.
All right. Well, so what would you say are the patterns that you're shifting and dissolving in your lineages in this lifetime?
That was a great question because the first thing that came to my mind was patriarchy.
Hmm.
I am shattering the patriarchy and bringing it back to matriarchy as it has always been in many of our cultures in the Philippines. Now, I'm not saying everybody, I'm saying many
Yeah.
because there are some other cultures within the Philippines that do look at men as like the head. But in general, I've known it to be matriarchal. And my grandma was the matriarch until she passed away. And then my dad's side of the family just kind of like did their own thing and split off, which is really sad. But at the same time, it's so much drama that happened in that side of the family. I'm like, I'm okay with it. I'm good. I'm starting a new chapter with my own children. And that's why I feel like it is my job, my responsibility to teach the next generation. If it's not the world in general, at least I got my kids because that's who I can directly influence. So it's patriarchy, the belief in a monotheistic religion like Catholicism, which has damaged our indigenous pre colonial, let's say, memories and healing practices, especially when we were originally animistic, polytheistic, things like that, and then just cut it out from all of our hearts and spirits, which is why I think we have a prevalent incidence or occurrence within the Philippine people of heart disease, diabetes, arthritis, gout. What other things can I name that we're all suffering from that shouldn't be there? Lupus. There's people with lupus
Yeah.
conditions, cancer.
Yeah.
Cancer is another one. Those are energies that stem from spirit and from the foods we eat and the foods they introduced to the Philippines. And this is why somebody was saying to me the other day, oh, I went to this tea cafe with my daughter and he was like, we have spam. I don't want any more spam. I grew up eating spam and then I realized that's a World War II food, processed, highly fatty. I'm sure that's why a lot of our ancestors have heart attacks and high cholesterol. Let me just stop that ancestral wounding as well. So it's in our diet, it's in what we accept into our mind. You can see that in politics. Like, what do Filipinos they voted for? Let me just put it out there
Hmm.
in general. What they think is the American dream and looking to a wealthy person or looking to a higher person to save them. So they have a savior mentality rooted in Christianity or in monotheism, where you look at one person as your savior instead of you being empowered, you having the energy that's connected to source to create and manifest your own life. You manifest your dreams. You manifested your illnesses. Whatever decisions, whatever you allow into your mind becomes real. I truly believe that's something I am breaking. Even with my husband, we do affirmations. We
Mhm.
listen to it before we sleep, when we wake up throughout the day, gratitude practice.
Yes.
Every day gratitude, and you attract to you from there all that which you are grateful for plus some, and that I truly believe is our magic. Pre-colonially, we were grateful for our lands, grateful for the air, the water, grateful to the gods and goddesses that represented the cosmos, the trees, the dirt, the volcanoes, our mountains, all that kind of stuff, the rivers. We were grateful on so many levels that the land healed us and we were in balance with the land. And because human beings are no longer in balance with the land, this is why we're suffering from ecological disasters and climate change, right? And it all has to start with yourself. We can try to change the world, but it's all starting with you, with me. And I'm doing that at home. I'm doing that through teaching my kids. We do composting and we grow our own plants or some of our own food. We can't grow everything here in the city, but we can definitely put in our contribution to living in harmony with our neighbors, our allies, our plant friends.
I remember visiting you, and I remember your beautiful garden in the back, your beautiful outdoor space. It's very, very magical, and I know you have Mama Guava back there.
Mm,
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing all of that, and I'm curious for any Phil Ams who might be listening to or viewing this podcast, if they're feeling like they want to start their ancestral healing journey, if they're feeling like they want to connect to their ancestors, what advice would you give them in terms of where to start, right? And how to start it in the right way?
I said this before, ask questions. Ask your relatives. If your parents are still alive, ask them what their stories are. It starts with your parents. And if you were adopted, look, research who you were adopted from. If you can find those threads, it will lead you to a tapestry of who you are and who you come from.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, so I want to shift the conversation a little bit. So you know this, but some of our viewers and listeners may not know this, but I have a monthly membership called the Ancestral Healing Collective, and it is a
Mhm.
sacred space that I've created to support and empower female-bodied cycle breakers and cycle starters to alchemize ancestral wounds into creative potential, shifts to higher consciousness, embodied joy, and spiritual gifts, utilizing pleasure and astrology as transformative medicine. And so I know you and I could probably do a whole podcast episode on
Please.
pleasure and eros and healing and the body. I mean, especially within our own Visayan lineage. But I want to talk a little astrology now.
Okay.
So, do you mind sharing with us your sun, moon, and rising sign?
Yes, my sun is Cancer, my moon is Scorpio, and my rising is Cancer.
Stop it. You're so watery.
I'm so water.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Sun,
Hmm.
Cancer, Moon in Scorpio, and then Cancer rising.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Damn. That's a lot of
yeah.
water.
That's a
That's a
lot of,
lot.
but that's why you got to do this work with all that water and the
Yeah.
Scorpio just really cuts through the bullshit. I could see through you.
I know. I know. That's why I say you're a real one. And Scorpio is the truth teller too.
Yeah.
Scorpio wants to get to the bottom of things. They don't care how
Hmm.
dirty, nasty, offensive it is. If something
Yeah.
is smelling in your kitchen, they will put on the hazmat suit, they will rip out the floorboards, and they will go
Yes.
underneath
Yes.
with the flashlight and be like, "What the hell is that? I have
Yeah.
to know."
Yeah. I hate lies. I have this thing about liars and lies, and it irks me. And having my Scorpio moon is just so cutthroat about truth. And I've lost friends, and people in my life for being too honest, maybe. I don't think there's any such thing as being too honest. I think it's just hard for people to see their truth or reflection of something they don't want to hear and they're not ready for it. But later on in life, they'll understand why I said it. And but I love my Scorpio very much. There's parts of my mother's side, my Cancer side, that's like, don't be so harsh on people. My motherly part, I'm very motherly. I almost adopt every single friend of mine that's closest to me like they're my babies. I call them my babies.
Aw.
I call them babe. Like most of my girlfriends are my babes. So even now, telling all this stuff on your podcast about like Babaylans and like this and that, I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. There's parts of me that are like, is it too much truth? There's part of me that's like, why are you shy? Why are you scared? I have those running tensions. I do have some things other than my rising sun and my moon that kind of create those inner tensions inside of me of trying to filter out enough so that I don't hurt someone's feelings, or ruffle somebody's feathers.
Mhm.
And they'll be like, that's not true. And I'm like, well, I think I speak my truth. If it doesn't resonate with you, that's not my problem. And I got to always like think about like, okay, Lynn, you're okay. You're okay.
Well, it sounds like you are an empowered Scorpio, right? Because I think, well, all of these signs, they're a spectrum of psycho spiritual energy with a low
Mhm.
expression and a high expression. And I think the low expression of Scorpio can be really mean.
Yeah.
They can sting you. They can be vengeful. They can
Oh,
hold
yes.
grudges. They keep secrets, but the high expression of Scorpio is, deep emotional sensitivity balanced with logic. And all of the water signs are super psychic and intuitive. So the moon, at least in Western tropical astrology, it represents your emotional core, your emotional inheritance. So, how do you care for your emotional life with this Scorpio moon that is
Mhm.
so deeply sensitive?
Yeah, I do artwork. Art is my outlet. I've always managed to help my mental health. That's why I was doing art office hours for 2 years on Instagram Live, just so that I can help community and help them understand that art is a form of healing. And because art delves so deep into the imagination, it utilizes imagination, goes deep into your psyche. Whether you were even conscious of what you want to draw or not, things just come out onto the paper or canvas that you have never expected because it comes from inside somewhere that couldn't be expressed with words. And the Scorpio part of me loves that. Like, I love the depth and darkness of things and how poetic even the most intense emotions are. That can be, you could see it, it becomes visible. This is my art, and then I can let it go.
That's so beautiful. I love your artwork. I remember going to one of your art shows and I definitely picked up a print for myself. Your pieces are so mesmerizing. They definitely have this very powerful energetic transmission to them. Um, I'm curious, what media are you working with? Are you working in graphite, watercolor, colored pencil? Like, what are you playing with?
Well, the prints that you have been made in oils or acrylics. So right now I'm
Nice.
playing a lot with paper because I'm working on my Philippine shamanic oracle deck, which
Nice.
is really exciting. And it's just faster on paper versus painting big paintings. So I've been using pen, acrylic markers, acrylic paint, and just going with it, drawing on the paper, bringing forth images of ampalaya or malunggay, those kind of vegetables or animals that resonate with our culture, with being Filipino, but not directly being like, this is ampalaya and this is all you see. I'm creating an entire oracle deck. And that's what I've been playing a lot with those ideas, expressing what parts of Ampalaya, this is just for example, would be able to come through to the reader to help them understand where they are in life in relation to their query, their question, or if they're reading for someone, it has to be easily readable that the teachings of this particular plant or halaman or gulay, whatever, is trying to convey.
Oh my gosh. Well, you're going to have to come back on here when this Oracle deck comes out, right? To talk about it. I would freaking love that. Well, so, speaking of the Oracle deck, can you share other things that you're excited about right now that you're working on? You said initially you've got a lot of projects happening at the same time. So, what can you share with us?
Yeah, I'd love to share. It's the whole list. This is part of my ADHD, but I don't like also being bored. I'm a Gemini and Mars. I have a lot of Gemini placements. So I like doing many things. So the first thing is Herbalaria has a skincare line that's going to be coming out soon that's like solely focused on guava
Nice.
and expanding that. And then we also just introduced the Diwata adornment, so amuletic jewelry.
Nice.
Very exciting. So we have Anting Antings, but we're not going to be limiting it to just amulets from the Philippines. I'm all about being the provider of spiritual tools for whoever needs it, whether it's through the jewelry, incenses, smudge bundles, all that kind of stuff. I want to be that person, that company that provides you with your spiritual support as well as your skincare, because you got to look good when you do your magic, right? So
Yeah,
taking
that's
care of
right.
yourself, right? It's all self-care and mental health care and spiritual care, all of that. Then the next one I'm working on is my guava book. That one is really exciting. I've been working on that for over 6 years. At the same time, the Philippine Shamanic Oracle deck. So it's just all been like every day I had to put in a little bit of work into this, into that, just how I process stuff. This July, this is really exciting. Diwata Comics is coming out with the new Icons anthology. My character, Divina Mala, is going to be making her world introduction. So we're going to be at Comic Con in San Diego, July 24th to the 27th. Yes.
So awesome.
Yeah. So, I mean, lots of good stuff. I'm getting it out there, but these are just in the now in the works, and hopefully we can get this to community sooner, especially the Oracle deck and the Guava book.
I love this. Congratulations on all these projects. And also, congrats on raising such amazing kids. I have met them
Thank you.
and they have great energy. And I really love what you shared about both of them being healers, right? Like, that's
Yeah.
awesome. This is, motherhood. I'm a bonus mom. I became a bonus mom when I got married, but I know motherhood is its own, spiritual adventure that we go on. And that's a super important role for you being a double cancer, cancer sun,
Mhm.
cancer rising, right? You have a lot of nurturing, mothering energy, a lot of love in your heart. You're
Yeah.
very, very
Thank you.
caring.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
thank you.
mean, I feel that. And your kids are evidence of that too, because they
Mm,
seem like happy and light and
yeah.
doing the things, right? They're just
I'm so
thriving.
blessed. I'm so blessed I don't have problematic kids. They're just so happy and they don't even go out at all, even though I'm encouraging them to go. I'm like, enjoy yourself. They're definitely not like me when I was in my teens and 20s because
Mhm.
I was a wild one. So, and we could even talk about that for our next podcast
Yeah, I want to.
episode.
I'm serious. I think yeah, you and I could do a whole conversation, probably a series of conversations on the spicy stuff, the
Yeah,
spicy
the
juicy
spicy
stuff.
stuff, juicy. Talking about Scorpio, I was in the past a dancer. So it's something that is well within the pleasure realm,
Yes.
growth realm, and also like learning how to deal with spirits even there, you know.
Oh my
Whew.
gosh, please put a pin in that because I want to dive into that conversation. That would be amazing.
Yeah, I wish someone would talk to me about that because, like, I haven't discussed that at all. Everybody's usually people are interested in knowing how I became who I am today, but that was part of the journey was really
Yeah.
going through there, and the way we look at shamanic process or at least initiation in any capacity, whether you're a shaman or not, all of the life experiences we've gone through are all initiations to something, to being who
Yeah.
we are today. Even you, sis, like
Yeah.
all your initiations, caring for your family, caring for both sides of your family, and anything you have to deal with, like that has to bring you to where you are today in being the powerful woman you are. being the goddess you are and making your ancestors proud, you know? So, hey,
Oh my gosh. I mean, you and I could talk for hours. I mean, I do think that I know this, you know this, there is a collective wounding in our lineage around sexuality, sexual energy, and
yes.
how it's been separated, artificially from our creative energy. Our sexual energy and our creative energy are one and the same, and that's why we engage with pleasure as transformative medicine inside the collective, because you cannot spiritually bypass the body when it comes to breaking generational patterns. And I do think that we actually store a lot of stagnant energy in the pelvic landscape. And so
Yes, we can
the
talk about that too.
yeah, I mean, that's
Oh,
why
yeah.
we engage with the jade egg, because that actually defrosts everything. It brings sensate focus back into your vagina, your cervix, all the things. And I know that I wouldn't be where I'm at today without having done that root healing work, because it actually really turned my intuitive abilities on. I felt
Mm,
like my cervix was a portal to other dimensions. It was my connection to the earth, my connection
yes,
to ancestors, but you have to cultivate a relationship with it. And I think
absolutely.
in US society and even back in the Philippines, we're still conditioned to believe that like the body's dangerous, it's sinful to enjoy pleasure, and like there's so many flavors of pleasure, right? It's not all sexual or, orgasmic pleasure. You can have peaceful pleasure, you can have restful pleasure, you can have nourishing pleasure. So yeah, there's a lot of repatterning work happening in this collective, and I really feel like you are the living embodiment of the divine feminine on this planet. I
Thank you.
really feel that. Just as a mother, you're a walking portal between dimensions, but you're also like sexy as hell, and you're
Thank
not
you.
afraid to be that. And I just really really appreciate that. And I appreciate you, sharing your history with dancing. So god, we could just talk so much
Mm,
about
yeah.
all these things. Oh my God. Well, so on this podcast, I always wrap each interview by asking the following question. So, what
Mm.
are the cycles that you are starting in your lineages?
The cycles I'm starting in my lineages within my children and even in this next generation I'm teaching is to believe in their own magic. I am bringing back divine feminism and the matriarchal energy and just a lot of remembering to your own authenticity, to not adopt a narrative by anyone or their projections, to just be you, be authentically you, and you'll be all right.
Thank you so much. Well, so Lynn, this has been an amazing conversation. I love spending time with you. We have fun and I learn a lot, and you are
Mm.
such an inspiration. So, if people want to find out more about you, if they want to
Mhm.
find out more about your products, how to work with you, where should they go?
So you can find me on herbalaria.com. So that's Herbalaria. And on Instagram, I am Herbalaria. So,
Fantastic. All
mhm,
right, sis. To be continued, I would
to be
love to
continued.
have you on this podcast again. This has been such a treat, such a delight. This is a long time coming, and I appreciate you so much. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh my gosh, salamat din sa inyo. I really, really am so grateful to even just be here and to speak with you and have this privilege. It really is a privilege. And I'm taking that privilege and running with it just to be with you, sis.
Oh my gosh. I receive all of this. I love you, and
Me
I'm
too.
serious about you being an inspiration, and just keep shining your light, keep doing what you're doing, keep kicking ass. I am here for it all.
Yes. I'm your cheerleader too, sis. Don't forget that.
Yes. 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 Oh my gosh. Thank you.
I saw
Thank
you. I saw this on TikTok. So I just want to say I'm also on TikTok if anybody wants to follow me there.
you. Yeah,
But I'm
what's your handle on TikTok?
the same. I am Herbalaria. Yeah. But
Okay.
I love watching your TikTok. So
Well, thank you. My
yeah.
gosh, I appreciate all this love. You're just touching my heart here.
Mm.
All right. Well, so to be continued. Thank you, everyone. We will see you next time on the Cycle Starters podcast. Take care. Thanks, Lynn.
Thank you.